Welcome. This is the Senior Life Academy located on the campus of the University Park United Methodist Church here in Dallas, Texas. I'm Dee Dee Cassad, and we have our forum together, and I'd like to introduce them. There is Diana Wilson, there's Bill Matthews, there is Miriam Mathis, and Bob Monroe. Welcome to each one of you. We're going to discuss priorities and purpose. God has a reason for us to be here. We're not born to without some reason to be. And I'd like to discuss if that is whatever our purpose is it something we've given ourselves, or does God give it to us? Bill, what do you think?
Well, God gives purpose, but it's up to us to discern that. It's because we're given different gifts and graces, and those purposes vary with those purposes, with those gifts and graces, and that takes some exploration early on. You go through a whole period of time when you're absolutely not sure, and then you're just not sure, and then you're less sure, and then sometimes you're a little bit more sure, and you act on a little bit more sure.
Well, how many of you all know what your purpose is in life? What is it, Diana?
I have a big umbrella concept that I think of when I talk about purpose, and that is the whole idea of the priesthood of all believers, that we all have a mission to do God's work in the world. However the timing is for that, however successful we are at doing it, and I have some ideas about that too, we are all called to do God's work in the world.
But specifically, do you know what your purpose is? Is it to constantly pray that you will know what that is, or do you know it intuitively, or do we create it ourselves?
My own personal experience with it is that it happens in a variety of ways. Some of it is very intentional, but lots of times it's because opportunities present themselves, exactly. and you feel, at least I do, I get this feeling like this is mine to do. Mm-hmm. I get excited. I think, wow, I like that. I feel that way about teaching the Enneagram. I feel that way about tutoring the kids over at Wallace Elementary.
Is there a difference between when you had a purpose before you retired and now that you have retired? Most of you have been retired several years. So was there a passage that you went through when you retired that redefined purpose?
I don't think it redefined purpose. When you retire, you of course let go of whatever you were putting your time into. For me, it was teaching, and as far as I know, and I think all these people would agree with me, that teaching is a form of ministry, that
of course,
that it's a calling, and that you feel a real love for the people that you teach and for the material that you're offering people to.
Is that how you feel, Miriam?
I do. I totally agree that teaching, education is a mission. Literacy is a form of mission, and I think when you retire, well, at least when I did, I realized that wouldn't go away for me, and I would just have to find another outlet, another way of realizing those calls. And I also agree with Diana that you have to be awake to the opportunities that you're presented with, and God will show you, the Spirit will show you something that calls to you to be done. And
so what I'm hearing is that there's no single purpose for any of you. The purpose comes with opportunity, purpose comes with directive from God. Is that how you feel, Bob?
Well, when I posed the question to myself, and I know it started as retirement, I had to think of purpose or meaning for me changed during my lifetime. When I was young, I was not very active in the church, or the parents or guardians weren't. And my focus was getting an education, then a job and family. And with the family started to come bringing children to church. That was, a purpose and meaning I was to be a good parent. That progressed through the lifetime to when I retired. It gave me a lot of more time to think about it, and I got in, said my purpose, I looked at James and said faith without works is dead, and so I sought things where I could do work for other people. When my health was good, I've said in the first session, that was Habitat for Humanity, and I worked year-round doing that. As my health changed, then I got active in tutoring at an elementary school, like Diane said. I've going on my 9th year, find a lot of love for the children who have a lot less than I did growing up. And that and helping the working poor find better jobs and training, those two things now have become very active in my life. But if I had to sum it up, it's my meaning in life is to be a good husband and to give back to the community of people, my neighbors, and the world is my neighbors.
In Colossians, it says, most of all, let love guide your life, for then the whole church will stay together in perfect harmony. Now, when I think of purpose, and then the opportunities come regularly and differently and surprisingly through the church. And it seems to me that once we place our priorities into the church and our purpose into the church and our gifts applied to that, then I think that's what brings harmony not only in our lives, but it brings harmony to the rest of the church. The church is very important to God, and nothing on earth is really more valuable to Him than the church. So if as a businessman and as a teacher, we look at life, I think, with some kind of purposefulness. In other words, we need to feel like we are not here at random, that we are here for a reason.
Well, Dee Dee, I don't disagree with you about the church being important because it's the base of my operation.
Exactly.
But I don't stop at the doors of the church and the walls of the church because I think it goes way beyond that in today.
Well, then define your church. Give me a definition
okay,
of
that's
your
what
church.
I was going to say. It's going to have to stretch your definition of church but beyond what we have traditionally thought of. Mm-hmm. There was an old film 50 years ago, Beyond These Cozy Walls was the title of it. Mm-hmm. And it was Bill McIlvaney's St. Stephen's United Methodist, well, it was before it was United Methodist Church. Mm-hmm. But that was a stimulation for my whole ministry, which is beyond the local church for the most part.
And that's been since when, Bill?
Well, since 1955 or so.
Yeah, okay. So,
but I was always looking beyond the local church, even though I was in a local church mm-hmm. and, spent 60 years from beginning to the present.
Wasn't that your experience as well, ma'am?
Well, yes, and I think I was thinking of a way to put it. You put it so well, Bill. What I consider church is not just our physical plant and the people we're surrounded right. with. It's God's people on earth. Right. And so if you're called to minister to somebody who lives in Malawi and who can't go to school because she doesn't have enough clothes to wear to school, right. then you figure out a way to help her get some clothes so she can stay in school.
Exactly.
If you're called to that. And so I think God's at work everywhere. God's at work among us every day, every minute. And our purpose is to respond to that, if you're going to talk about a global purpose.
And
Well,
I found that, the example of that for me today is that I met this morning with somebody who is a member of the Jamaat Khana, which is an Ismaili Muslim community, very strong in Plano. I've worked with them for quite a few years now, and I find it really inspiring because God is at work there. In every bit as much as he is at 4024 Caruth.
Well, and so we redefine church.
That's
It's
my
beyond
point.
a building,
That's my point.
and it's beyond a denomination.
Mm-hmm.
It is Christ's church. It is God's church. It's the universal
It's
church.
a cosmic Christ,
It's a
which is
very-
by definition one of some of the deeper thinkers than I am.
Well, if I
have
can
called
sum
it.
this up, we all feel we have a purpose, correct?
We
all
have a
feel that
purpose.
God has called us for a reason.
Or purposes.
Our purpose is very good.
I agree, yeah.
I don't like the limitations of a purpose because
Keep me honest, Bill.
well, it's just changed so many times for me. It's a dynamic reality of interaction with the world.
Excellent. It is. It is. And I think we've all sensed that. He's just, he was an engineer and he helped build the satellite, that goes to the moon.
Right.
I mean, his purpose was clear at one time, but it's different now than it was. And his purpose now is outreach. He likes to, I'm speaking for you, Bob, but go ahead, speak for yourself.
No, I didn't think of it as a church without world, but or the church, not having walls. But I did mention that to me, I've come to believe that when Christ said, "Love thy neighbor," he meant all peoples, all his world, all his children. So I think it was a different way of expressing some,
Absolutely.
of what we've heard here from the others.
Well, we have to wrap this up right now. We've had our time together. Thank you so much. And I would encourage those of you who are watching us to respond if you would like to. We'd like to hear from you. The email address is printed below my voice right now, so we would love to hear from you, get your comments and your ideas and anything you might want us to discuss. In the meanwhile, we hope that God surrounds you with his grace.